I cannot tell you how excited I am about this project. So I'm going to show you how to make the really fancy kind of ruffled flowers that you see on all kinds of shirts and sweaters and outfits right now. They're super popular and they tend to be kind of on the pricey side. So using your scallop circle die from Stampin Up, which is one of my very favorite dies, I use it all the time, and some fabrics, you can create that same look yourself at home. Now you can do this with hand stitching. I think it's probably quicker using a sewing machine, but use resources that you have at home. So I'm going to start off with a piece of fabric. Now this is, you can use any kind of fabric that melts well. We're going to melt this with a heat tool eventually. And so when you're looking, you want to look for things like nylon or polyester, all those kind of synthetic fibers that are going to melt under heat. Go ahead and use your scallop circle die. This is the large scallop circle size. To go ahead and cut yourself a scallop circle, and then go ahead and take your scissors and go ahead and cut a spiral shape here. And my spiral is about 1 inch wide, and I'm just going to rotate my fabric as I go and bring this spiral back around into the center here so that I have a shape. Let me fold it back up for you. That one's a little fuzzy. A shape that looks a lot like this. Let me separate this so you can kind of see where the spiral goes. See how that works? Okay, so I have a spiral. Now depending on your pattern, you're going to need a bunch of these. So I think I've cut 5 or 6 here, and I'm going to show you what to do next with your t-shirt. So this is just a really inexpensive black t-shirt that actually I just pulled out of my closet, and I'm going to take my Stampin' Up markers. Since these are water-based markers, they will wash out when you go ahead and wash this. So this one happens to be Concord Crush, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a design on my fabric. There's like a swirl there and a spiral here, and don't worry if you can't see this. I'll try and shift it in a minute so you can see. I'll do a little curly Q over here. Let's see, maybe another spiral over here, and a little connecty piece, and one more spiral, I think. Okay, now you wouldn't have to draw this on your t-shirt necessarily. Oh, look, you can see it. Good deal. You wouldn't have to draw this on your t-shirt necessarily, but I really found that when I was using my sewing machine, it's much easier. Things get all mishmashy in there once you start sewing, and it was much easier to be able to line up my fabric as I'm stitching along a line. So now what I'm going to do, let's see if I can make my camera focus here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to start with my strips of scallop circle. So this is just a scallop circle here. See here, looks like a scallop circle again. You can see that. I'm going to go ahead and stitch a line right along the edge of my fabric here. And I'm going to take this, I'll go ahead and bend this back this way, bend this way, and I'm going to stitch real close, probably within about 1/4 of an inch at the most of the raw inside edge of my piece here. And then if I get to the end here, I'll go ahead and trim this, and I will show you what that looks like. So here's my first piece stitched on. Go ahead and show this to you. So all I did was stitch right next to the 1/4 inch seam allowance here, as if there's a seam allowance. You saw me cut that spiral. Pretend it's not accurate. But go ahead and stitch right next to that open edge. And I just bent this back up and just kept going around in a circle here. And that ends our first of our swirls. And then next I'll go on to the spiral. Okay, so now we have our fabric all stitched on, and I'll try and get you a nice close-up here. Pretty much I followed my lines. Oop, there, we got an extra thread still in there. I'll trim that out. Now, I didn't do like the neatest job in the world because really you're melting the fabric. It's not going to show. So my lines aren't necessarily straight. It might even be easier to see on the back side. So here you can see kind of the reverse of my design. So I started up here, I did my little zigzag, I did some kind of spirals, I spiraled again, and you can see that this spiral is nowhere near perfect. But when you have it on the right side, that fabric is just tacked down and nicely attached. It doesn't really matter whether it is perfectly spiraled or not. So, but you may be a much better sewing machine user than I, and so you may be able to make it look perfect. But let me show you the next step. So what I'm going to do, I just need something that doesn't conduct heat, so like a bone folder or something along those lines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe this before I turn my heat tool on, because the heat tool is quite loud. This is not a tool like a hairdryer. The heat tools, when they used to come with directions for stripping paint. So this is a really industrial blower that blows really hot air. A paint stripper is probably too hot for this. A embossing heat tool is just about perfect, and the Stampin' Up! One is really nice. I highly recommend it. The hot air then is going to blow on here, and it's going to melt our synthetic fabric, and I'm just going to use this to sort of tip up. It works best to keep the edge of the fabric up, and that's what I'm going to melt. So let me go ahead and show you how that works. Okay, so you may or may not want to melt it all the way. If you keep the heat tool pointed right on it, it will go ahead and shrink down pretty far, but you might want to leave some pieces like this so you can see a little bit of the scallop and so forth still showing. And that gives you this really cool design. So when I zoom out, we have a black t-shirt now that has a really fun design on it and looks like we paid more than, you know, the $3 that this t-shirt cost or something like that. So you can go ahead and try this on a number of different things. I have one that I did here in white. This is for a little girl's t-shirt, and the t-shirt was $2 on clearance, and then the fabric I used for this was white with little tiny rhinestoney sparkles and so forth in it. So there is that one as another sample. So it kind of gives you some ideas of things that you might do with this technique, and go ahead and make some really cool, you know, the sky's the limit, t-shirts or bags or anything. Have fun with it.